Peace, family. This video right here is about DNA life forms. Alright? Now, before we go into DNA, this video right here is going to be scientific and spiritual. We're going to be breaking down, I'm going to be using the analogy of the state of liquid, since everything in the universe that is manifested into an organism, or that is manifested into what we conceptualize as being an organism from a piece of genetic material that we conceptualize and have named DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, comes from 85% water. We're going to use water to give you the allegorical understanding and correct perception of who you are, as well as the point of life, and last but not least, the point and the mission of DNA. Now we're going to start with DNA first, and then we're going to do the spiritual last. Now, DNA, family, if you don't know, DNA's entire mission is to turn back into light. That is DNA's mission. So, why do you eat alkaline foods? Not only to electrify your body, but to give DNA the certain nutrients and properties and chemical properties that it needs to recompose itself back into light. So you can think of DNA like a Rubik's Cube. Okay? Every time you eat certain foods, you spin in a Rubik's Cube. And your DNA is constantly trying to reconfigure itself back into its purest form, which is a single voltage of electricity. So with that being said, your DNA's mission is to turn back into light. This is why when you eat electric foods, you become more stronger, because your DNA is actually unlocking certain codons that have been locked within it due to certain light frequencies and other things I broke down in certain videos, and it's unlocking information that otherwise would not be available to you as a human organism, as an African being, on a certain level of vibration. That is DNA's mission. Your mission, after consciously understanding this, is to help DNA out. So DNA is a Rubik's Cube. Once you know which way to spin the Rubik's Cube to reconfigure it back into its correct posture, that is what you're supposed to be doing. So the foods you eat and the things you psychologically digest are all helping you reconfigure the Rubik's Cube back to its proper position. Now let's go into whatchamacallit, your being, your perception. First of all, you are an individual extension. Go watch my video I titled called Who's God? I made it last year. I break down the perception of God, how you're just an individual extension of the Creator. Now with that being said, gas, liquid, solid. Those are the basic foundations of science. But they never break down why these are the basic foundations of science. Everything starts off as a gas. And then gas condensates into a liquid, and liquid condensates into a solid. Now the Creator, God, gas, everywhere, all through, permeates the universe, omnipresent. The universe individually becomes an organism. That's liquid. Okay? An individual condensation of the omnipresent self. This goddamn entire atmosphere is filled with oxygen, okay, and hydrogen. But it does not rain everywhere at the same time on the planet Earth. So this individual raindrop is you. You are not separate from your gas self. You are not separate from the Creator. You are an individual extension of the Creator. Just like I always say, a spark ain't separate from the flame. It's an individual extension from the flame. Now this liquid is your soul. This is your individual soul. So the gas or the hydrogen and oxygen that's in the atmosphere, okay, condensates into a liquid, aka your individual soul. And your individual soul physically manifests itself inside of a physical shell, which is ice, a body. See, ice can travel through a liquid and gas, but gas in a liquid cannot travel through the ice. So the ice is used as a vehicle for the liquid to experience itself from another perspective. That is the point of life. The point of you being in this physical vehicle is for you to, as an extension of the Creator, to experience yourself from another point of view. See, you can destroy the ice. You can crush it up. You can brutalize the ice. But you can't destroy the liquid or the gas. Water can be disturbed. A spirit can be disturbed, traumatized, tortured. The things we go through on this wicked ass earth plane at this time. But gas, you can't destroy gas the way you can destroy liquid and ice. Now, this is why in this allegorical, description I'm giving you, the gas is symbolic to the Creator. You cannot destroy the Creator. You can traumatize yourself or be traumatized by somebody outside yourself as an extension of the Creator. But once you understand yourself on a certain level of intelligence as well as wisdom, you always go back to your peaceful state. Just like water. You can go splash in the goddamn water all you want. As soon as you leave the water alone, it goes back into its peaceful natural state. But the ice or the water, once it becomes physical or becomes a solid, can be destroyed. This body can be destroyed, but your spirit can be disturbed. But once you heal yourself psychologically, you always go back to your peaceful state. But that which who you truly are, which is the Creator, the Most High, can never be tampered. Your soul vibrates so high that it cannot actually be negatively affected. You only think that you can be negatively affected. But once you destroy this misconception, you immediately go back to your peaceful state. This is called being in your higher self. Now, when we go back to liquid, solid, gas, and its significant meaning in regards to DNA life forms, how does liquid take a solid form? How does a life form become a life form? Easy. Your life form is predicated upon your wave form. Different wave forms become different life forms. So you could be a short wavelength with a high vibration. You could be a long wavelength with a low vibration. This all will determine your physical form. If you got some water and it takes the shape of, let's say, an ice cream cone, and you freeze it underneath a certain temperature, that water will take that form. Why? Because the waveform was subjected to that temperature. If you freeze ice in a goddamn cube form, it'll take the form of a cube. So water takes the form of whatever temperature it's subjected to. Now, why is this important? Temperature, as well as temper, has the same etymology meaning. I mean, the same meanings when you look up their etymology. And they come from the Latin word temperare, if I'm saying it right. Temperare. And when you look up temperare, if I'm saying it correctly, it means state of being. So internally, you control your temper. Why? Because your temper directly decides your state of being. If you're mad, you'll psychologically concoct mad thoughts. If you are outside and it's hot or it's cold, that will determine the state of being in your environment, which will also determine your psychology. Because remember, the definition of psychology is the circumstances which influence a living organism. So the temperature outside directly influences your psychological state, which influences your temper inside. But also your temperature determines the life form of all molecules, because they determine their form directly. The slower it is, remember, water becomes ice because it's vibrating slower, so the molecules are coming closer together. Water evaporates into a gas because it's vibrating higher, so the molecules are more spread apart. So, for example, if you live on a goddamn planet where it's cold as hell, because y'all need to start looking up planets. They got planets out there that's made up of straight diamonds. Y'all need to go look this up. So let's say if you live on a planet that's cold, then the life forms on that planet are subjected to a certain wavelength, because your wavelength is determined by the electromagnetic spectrum of the sun. So therefore, they would have a different physical appearance in all the animals, in all life forms as we know it on that planet will be subjected to a different physical appearance and composition than us. So this is what you would deem an alien. So with that being said, family, understand your DNA's mission is to return back into light, because that is who you are as a genetic organ. That is what your genetic material is as the specific organism you are as a human, a Homo sapien, aka African, a melanated god, descendant of the ancestors, the Galactic Federation. But your proper perspective and understanding on this realm, while helping your body to do so, is to understand that you are just gas. I mean, you are just a liquid, your water, experiencing yourself as ice. You don't get caught up on being ice, because you always will go back to water. You always come back to your soul. And you don't stress your soul, because you know that your soul can never be destroyed. It can only be disturbed. Evaporation, precipitation, condensation. Water evaporates. It begins to precipitate, and then it begins to condensate and come down. Same thing with your soul. It's just like life. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's not a definite or indefinite. It's not an indefinite reality. A definite reality is indefinite. It's not something that's permanent. It's something that you experience and then you come back around, aka